Wilder, CRN. I want to go to my guest now. The one and only Kimberly Dvorak, D-V-O-R-A-K. She is the award-winning National Security and Border Security Investigative Reporter for TV, radio, and print media. And Kimberly is the Senior Foreign Policy Advisor for the Committee for Responsible Foreign Policy. That might even include the border, you know? Yes, she's a TV correspondent for CW6 News San Diego, as well as One America News Network. And her website is thekdreport.com, where you'll see this entire report a little bit later on. And she's also streaming live at Facebook. Hello, Kimberly.
How are you doing, Chuck?
I am fair to partly cloudy today. And I noticed you are back in D.C. because you've been, jet skipping all over the United States.
Well, I got to stay one step ahead of everybody.
Yeah, but aren't you afraid that D.C. might be contagious? I mean, the way it's going right now.
No idea what's going on in D.C. They've locked the whole district down.
Oh, boy. I'm telling you, and far, far away. Yeah, sounds like a Star Wars movie, but anyway, far, far away, there is this place a location called the Southern Border. Totally out of control. Worst it's ever been, I guess. I mean, Pancho Villas never even gave us this much trouble.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, and, this administration continues to step all over the message again here. And in essence, what they've done, and by allowing this latest massive migration of Haitians come into this country, they're just signaling to any other country, if you can get yourself a plane ticket to Mexico, then you can come on into America because you're going to be accepted into the country. And what's really tragic about it is, of course, when they have to go through the coyotes, the drug cartels, and alike to get across the border, a lot of these people are, they're abused, they're sold into slavery to pay the fee to cross the border. Things that, the Democrats really don't, seem to care too much about, because that's what you do when you're moving that massive amount of people from one country to another. And in the last couple months, it's been 1 million people that have come to this country that don't speak this language, don't know our culture, and will require extensive response from the United States government, i.e. the taxpayer, to pay for them to get food, for them to get medical treatment, for them to get housing, for them to, navigate their ways to getting a green card, to getting their kids to school, and, God forbid that they got to get on a road somewhere, and, the alike. I mean, especially in California, the roads are in such disrepair. People don't, equate that with illegal immigration, but you bring that many people into a state illegally, and sure, they're gonna tear up the infrastructure this country sorely needs. And yet again, over the weekend, we hear that the Biden administration told all of his secretary people that went out on the Sunday shows, well, we don't really believe in building a wall. They don't really believe in, I'm sorry, you don't really believe in building a wall. Okay, so what do you think is going to fix this problem then?
Well, let me ask you this. What was it they had around the Capitol building?
Yeah.
Pretty big
fence.
What is it they have around their mansions they live in?
Exactly. It's frustrating.
Now, let me ask you this, too, real quick, because, they're really spouting this whole thing. Oh, you're going to get 2 years of free college and blah, blah, blah. And does this apply for the immigrants, too? 2 years free college? I mean, you don't say you've got to be an American citizen to get this free college,
well, and how they'll get around that is they'll navigate through the courts, and the courts will say, well, that's, discrimination. Yeah. You can't discriminate that. So, yes, they're going to get this free college education. And what about all the single moms out there, myself included, who, had to get daycare for kids while you were working? There's no free daycare. You did what you had to do to get by. And let me tell you, people out there, I mean, especially single moms, can understand and appreciate this. If you're looking back, you were just waiting for them to hit elementary school, and that was like, whew, then I wasn't going to have to spend all that money. But you better believe that all of these people that are coming here, if they don't have kids yet, they're going to have them immediately, because it's called anchor babies. And that means the parents will be here, and they will have to collect all that money to keep to watch over their children that are born here. That's really what's going on.
Well, I'll tell you, as we go into this break, Kimberly Dvorak, I'll give you a good title for maybe one of your reports, okay? And how it really, really sinks in now. The United States, land of the free. Free, free, free. We're having a sale, I guess, yes. Kimberly Dvorak, thekdreport.com, or right after this award-winning break, yes. CRN Chuck Wilder with Kimberly Dvorak. She is the Senior Foreign Policy Advisor for the Committee for Responsible Foreign Policy. And Mexico's border just happens to be foreign. Yes, half of it is, I guess. You get halfway over the
That's
river.
debatable.
And isn't it amazing about how many laws this administration is breaking right now? Yeah. And perhaps the biggest is whenever they start changing the immigration laws. My goodness.
Yeah.
And what's going on down there, and then the race baiting that goes on. This is worse than slavery. This reminds me of the slavery days. Well, look at those cowboys on those horses and what they're doing. They weren't cowboys, all right? They were Border Patrol agents.
Yeah.
They were doing what they're supposed to do according to the laws of the United States of America, and they didn't have any whips.
Yeah.
But, boy, I'll tell you, they just want to keep changing the whole storyline, don't they?
Yeah, well, when you look at, Mayorkas, who finally had to give a press conference on Friday and then just continued to double down on lies that he'd already repeated, one of which is those that you just talked about, that, the laws of, the immigration laws. He said that they're just following the laws that are on the books. Well, if he was doing that, then he might want to refer back to 2006 Secure Fence Act, in which immigration was dealt with under George W. Bush, in which people that came to this country illegally were deported. They were not rewarded. So it's just when you hear the administration, you hear Jen Psaki, and you hear Chuck Schumer, and you hear Nancy Pelosi, all saying they're just dealt the hand that they've been dealt, and oh my gosh, it's not us. It was an evil Trump. He rewrote those laws, and Congress must have passed them when we were sleeping at night, and this is how we're supposed to treat them. Give me a break. That's exactly what they're doing.
Wasn't one of the laws is that you remain in Mexico until we can sort it out and let you into this country?
Title 41.
That's not what it is now.
Yep, Title 41.
And let me ask you this. Do they send out, what would be the word, I guess, special people that are trained to go to foreign countries and set up their whole shipping orders and everything to bring them, let's say, I'll just say Haiti. All right, they go to Haiti and say, how many of you want to come to America? Come on, we'll put you in a boat and we'll drop you off in Mexico, and here you go through and pay they're kind of bad guys, but, pay your dues, and then they'll let you go through. And here's some fentanyl to carry along while you go across the river.
Yeah, well, and what we're finding more and more about the Haitians that have gotten to the border so quickly, they saw exactly what was going on with the Mexico and Central American, people, migrants leaving their country in droves once Biden became president. And so, they had a, pretty tough, they seemed to be in the path of all the hurricanes. So they took it upon themselves, but a lot of these people flew from there to Mexico. So they weren't getting on a boat and coming that direction. They're flying. And if you watch some of the news reporting down there, some of the reporters are actually noting that these people were not dressed in raggedy, clothes. They're saying that we saw designer tennis shoes, we saw designer clothes. These people looked like they had, not been, traumatized so much. Maybe their house was wiped away in a hurricane and that, but they're coming for financial benefit, and that does not constitute refugee status. So if it's a tough life in Haiti, then I feel badly for them, but they need to figure out how to make their country better. And if they want to send some of their children to our universities, and so they can learn, democracies and government and take classes in those areas, then as the Dalai Lama has stated, that the Western world does have an obligation, and I think American taxpayers would say, yeah, hey, we'll throw them through our system, but when they graduate, they go back to their country and they go help make it better. And they don't bring all their parents and their cousins and their brothers and sisters to this country. They go home and they figure out a way to make those countries better. That's something the Dalai Lama said. So, I tend to go back to that, but I understand that these are tough situations. I've been to these tough situations. I've been to third world countries. I've lived in third world countries. So I know what it's like and I understand that. But when you have corruption and nobody really willing to do too much about it, then it just kind of gets, snowballs down the hill. But that's what it's going to take. We cannot fix these countries. They are going to have to fix themselves. And I think the 20 years that we spent in Afghanistan, while we got out the absolute worst way you can imagine getting out of the country, these countries have to want to be better. They have to want to be like America. And what we're finding now, and out here on the East Coast, it's unbelievable. These people are not integrating. These people are staying in little enclaves, and you drive around and they have their own grocery stores with names you can't even enunciate, and they're eating the safe. They do not want to be Americans. And the great American experiment was that people wanted to come here and become an American. And what we're seeing now, sadly, not all of the people, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them, they're just crossing illegally, because the people who do it correctly and wait in line are some of the best American citizens we have, because they actually, just read the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, had to take a test, and appreciate how much this country means to them. So I mean it in that capacity. But when you look at people that come to this country and then they turn around and send their money back to their home countries in the form of remittances, well, they're taking that money out of the economy. That money is not being spent in America now. Now that's being spent in Mexico, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Panama, Costa Rica, and beyond. That's where all that money is being spent. So the fair share thing really pays off here.
And Mexico has it set up that even when you go into the United States as an illegal alien, you still have a right to vote for Mexican laws that are going on, and the new Mexican president and all that, and send us our money. I think it was really established, according to a guest I have on quite frequently that was in Florida, that, whenever the Cuban crisis came up and all that, that's when they first started those no-go zones, and now they're all over the place, because I guess they even have them, where the Somalians are living and stuff. So.
San Diego has that. There's a no-go zone in San Diego, and it's because of the Somali community. And they have, they have their own grocery stores. They have their own, hair salons, whatever else that they need and want. However, they're picking up money from Uncle Sam in the form of taxpayer money to do this. And again, when we see countries do this, and we've seen this in Germany with the Turks, the same thing. They've created no-go zones. You can vote from Germany in Turkish elections. So we've seen it there, and then we've also seen it with the Muslim community in France. So there are a lot of these no-go zones, and whenever you start going down these no-go zones, law enforcement stops going into the no-go zones, and you've got calamity breaking out, and you've got rampant crime. So it's not a good thing, and then there's no assimilation, taking place. So
in America, can you believe in America that they have no-go zones for the police? And I didn't believe it until I saw a special report a long time ago, and it had to do with Florida. Mm-hmm. And no, you go in, but you have to have a certain person ride with you that represents the people that you're going into. And I mean, wow. Yeah. Try that, somewhere else. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like the narrative, and the word du jour for the Biden administration is horrifying. What's going on at the border is horrifying. It's horrifying. They throw that word around, and they misinterpret a picture of that a photographer took. Actually, he was on the Mexico side of the border, which is a little known fact that's being reported. He took that picture from Mexico, and they're trying to protect the border. President Biden sent them down there to protect that border. Now he's going, or at least he's threatened to punish Border Patrol agents for protecting the border. And, we had our friend, Brandon Judd, who, reports on all of this stuff and is in front of the cameras. And he said, this is ballistic. He's like, we're going to lose Border Patrol agents, just like we're losing police officers and firefighters, because who wants to work in that environment? And, again, this is, all of these things snowball into creating the crime that is continuing to spike in all areas of this country.
These people that stir up rest, Kimberly, there ought to be a law, and I go back to things, and I mean, the Democratic Party has just got me boiling mad about certain things, and now they're talking about what we're talking about. Oh, this is terrible. This reminds me of the days of the racial, terrible race rights that we had and all this stuff, and whipping those people with whips. And, and then you've got the same cast of characters.
Yeah.
And then it reminds me of, whenever they talk about the January 6th, incursion into the Capitol building,
yeah,
and how bad it was. And finally, they had to release the film, and it shows you there was no violence. The only violence was whenever the lady got shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they get away with it.
Yeah.
But what really makes me mad is when they talk about, oh, this is worse than Pearl Harbor, worse than Normandy. Oh, this is worse than
9/11.
Twin Towers.
Yeah.
9/11. And that really gets to you, because look at all those people that died in 11.
Yeah.
How in the hell can, 3 horses pushing some people out of the way a little bit be worse than 9/11? Why do they have to overreact like that? I got to get down off my ladder here. Excuse me. Okay. Everything's all right.
Yeah, no, but
How's it going with you?
I agree with you, but as we know, we learned this a lot with the Obama administration, that they were the most transparent administration in the history of administrations, which was flat out not true. We never got any of the information. In fact, they were surveilling members of the media to make sure that they could try to block off what they were doing, and what they should cover, and trying to shut down legitimate conversation that media people like myself would like to go on TV and share with the American people, share the facts. They did not like that whatsoever. So we saw that, and we saw that if you just repeat it enough times, then it just becomes, it's a fact. So the one thing that the left is really good at is staying on message and just repeating it over and over and over. There's no crisis at the border.
Yeah.
There's no crisis at the border. There's no crisis at the border. And I mean, it's like cameras and drones and everything. We're all looking at this going, wow, then what would a crisis on the border look like? Because if we don't have control of our border, and we're going to exit Afghanistan the way we did, and what makes anybody think that terrorists have not already crossed that border and into our country? Because the numbers that they collect on a monthly basis are the ones that they got, and there are a lot of them that they did not catch, and the ones that they did not catch are terrorists. They've apprehended some terrorists, but if they apprehend 10, how many do you think got away and escaped into this country somewhere? So that's what I think.
And some of them move to one place so the other place can come by. They put the phony thing down here, and then that draws out the limited amount of guards or not guards, but anyway, Border Patrol that we have, agents, get them to move, and then they'll use the fentanyl coming across the other place.
Oh yeah.
Real quick, do you remember when Obama had his beer summit because his friend, the professor, was drunk?
Yeah.
And the police thought he was trying to break into a house, and that's because he couldn't get his own keys in there or whatever. Yeah. And he's going to have the beer summit, and it backfired on him, right?
It did.
So now Biden has decided, I'm going to teach these people for whipping those people from those donkeys they were riding. Donkeys, yes. I'm making a lot of this stuff up, right? Donkeys and whips, and because there were no such thing. It was horses and little bridles that keep the horses like a steering wheel.
For those of us that have ridden horses, I tell you, you usually, when you ride English, you have 2 sets of reins that come up, and that's how you control what the animal does, or when you're riding with a Western style, then you have the split rein, and it's what you use so you can pull it, and it pulls on the bridle aspect, and the horse knows that it needs to move left, right, or stop. It's used to control the animal, and like I said, when we finally heard that the photograph that was released, he came out and said he saw nobody whipping anybody. Period. There was no whipping. There were people trying to, outskirt the horses to get into the country illegally. And apparently, I guess we're just supposed to go, oh, okay, you made it this far. Okay, and wave you through. You know what? You go over here, we'll give you some water. And over there, you'll get your plane ticket. And then we'll give you notice. And then you can come back to court in 2 years. And you better promise that you're going to come back to court. And they don't.
But some of them say, no. I'm going now. I'm going right now. I'm not going to listen to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they don't stick around. They know they're in there, and they know that they can eventually get jobs, and they know that they're, that they can. Again, I think the thing for the younger, people that come in, they know that if they have a child, it's an anchor baby, and they're all but guaranteed to collect welfare until the child turns 18, and they'll get free housing and free medical and all of that, because you have to have parents take care of the child. And that's what they do. They know this. Yep. They know these things. So until we stop this practice. Yeah.
And Maxine Waters and President Biden, you got to remember the laws, the immigration laws. That's what those Border Patrol agents were doing, following what's already on the books. You know how you people forget about 9/11 and those investigations and the things that are written up? Yes. All right, we're going to be right back and wrap things up with Kimberly Dvorak. The website, thekdreport.com, and it shows up on YouTube and live streaming on Facebook. She is everywhere. We'll be back. Senior Foreign Policy Advisor for the Committee for Responsible Foreign Policy. So what are you doing, lady?
This
Why are
is
you
not
fixing
responsible
this?
foreign policy. Let me just leave the listener and the viewers with this. At the press conference at the White House, where Secretary Mayorkas, he was asked obviously a lot of questions. One of them was in the form of, wouldn't you call this a flood of people trying to cross the border? And he replied, no, he doesn't believe this is a flood of migrants crossing the southern border, and that they had assets in place to handle all of these migrants that were coming into this country, that the government has already all the assets that they need to take care of this situation. This has been going on since, I'll give him a break. Yeah. It's been going on since February. So I'll give him like a 3-week break. February until now.
You know what it is? The access are all those buses.
Yeah. And plane tickets.
Right?
Yes. But these are the assets. I think the American people, if you were looking at that statement, when they're saying, oh, well, you're going to do background checks on all these people. You're going to make sure they don't have COVID before we put them on a plane, where they don't have to wear masks and the rest of everybody else does. And you're going to make sure they're not criminals and they haven't come across the border 16 times because they've been deported after getting out of prison. Those kind of things. That's what the American people expect. But what Mayorkas did there, and he was clearly frustrated during that press conference, as he should have been, because this is completely out of control, and who knows what the next wave's going to be. They're continuing to cross, trust me, but there will be another group that will fly into the area and amass themselves in a very similar situation and pull a few heart tug swings here from Americans and say, oh, we need to come here, we need to live here. But the problem is we are $30 trillion in debt. We can't take care of ourselves. And I figure that we ought to start taking care of ourselves and our kids and making sure that when they grow up that they have a country that's worth keeping.
And probably the most ridiculous thing, and you don't have to have a really high IQ to figure it out, is you have the President of the United States doing this wonderful speech about the biggest threat we have right now are those people that won't get the shot. Those people that won't get the shot. That's our biggest threat. Well, other than, of course, global warming is always right as number one.
But what about this? Chuck,
All these people come in.
And not on top of that, we have seen college football stadiums packed to the rim, no masks, no super spreading events. I tell you, that's exactly all you need to know about this super spreader stuff.
Yeah, and the Sturgis motorcycle thing they had 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And they have it every year, but that was going to be, that's going to be the worst breakout we've ever had on COVID. Didn't happen.
Yep.
And the bottom line is, what? If you've got the shot, don't worry about those people that don't want to get the shot.
Yeah.
Are they telling you the shots don't work?
Yeah.
Oh boy, I'll tell you. Well, I don't know. Maybe they figured the indoctrination in the school had worked totally 100%. They're wrong. We're paying attention, aren't we?
We are.
Okay. We're paying attention. What does that mean? Well, it says it's time to say goodbye to the one and only Kimberly Dvorak.
Au revoir.
Yeah, adios.
Try to go down the languages I know.
She snuck across the border. Adios. Yeah, I know where you picked that up, Pat. All right. Kimberly Dvorak, Dvorak, and check out the KD Report a little bit later on, thekdreport.com, and you'll see this beautiful, beautiful report right there.